I had the date wrong. I thought today was 22nd, but today is the vlog for um, May 23rd. And the most obvious thing going on here is this. Now, I got started in February, and it's been 3 months now. So I don't remember if I started with a buzzed head. I think I might have gotten my hair cut right before my birthday, and I might not have gotten it cut since. So this is probably pretty dramatic. But even having said that, I feel like it's been cut at one point or another during these vlogs. I'll have to go back. It's funny to if I scroll, quickly enough, I can actually watch my hair grow in the thumbnails for this playlist for these vlogs. So that's a little trick of animation. Um, but I just finished. So my Grandma June, who is the matriarch of the Spornitz branch of the family, is turning 98 on June 1st. Grandma June, born on June 1st. She has 9 grandkids and probably nearly as many great grandkids at this point. We have become a very big, spread out family. And yeah, I wrote her a pretty long letter to include with her birthday card. And I did it by hand. And it's sort of, when I started thinking about it, I thought about, she's from a time where it's not like letters were being delivered by the Pony Express on horseback. That's before her time. Um, her grandparents maybe, but not her parents and not her. Um, but she did grow up in a time where the post came, you know, every day except on Sundays, and you would just get your letters. She grew up in a time before they sent, the loads and loads of trash mail that we get now, the equivalent of spam but physical form, coupons and things that are just thinly veiled advertisements, offers for credit cards, all that nonsense. And we have to deal with it in our own way as email, but I take for granted the the mere fact that I was born into a world without email. I was born into a world with computers, but I was born into a world with computers that did not connect to each other on a regular basis. The internet, as it existed back in 1981, if it existed at all in a recognizable state, was simply an automated system that would reroute communication lines in case a communication line was broken. It was created specifically, darkly, to allow communication in the case of bombing attacks that could take out large amounts of communication infrastructure. And that eventually evolved into the World Wide Web when other computer sources were connected to it in other countries, and then a graphical user interface was added. That was the www part. And I've grown up with that, but I didn't grow up learning. Like, it didn't really catch on until the middle of the 90s. That was when it became very, very common with services like America Online or CompuServe, which is what my dad used and what I used initially. He only got it, and in fact, come to think of it, our family was probably one of the very early adopters of computer-to-computer communication. He got CompuServe because it allowed him to bid for flights. He was an airline pilot, and you have to bid for the flights that you'll be flying during the year or the season. I still, to this day, don't know exactly how it works, but he wanted the flights and the flight times that allowed him to spend the important dates with his family, and that was tricky business when he got started, but it became easier as the years rolled by, and he had the seniority in order to get Christmas off and Thanksgiving off and other important holidays like Memorial Day weekend when we would try and go to the lake and spend time with Grandma June on her birthday. I don't consider myself a real millennial. The cutoff date for millennials is, like any ill-defined group, ill-defined. So some people say that it's anybody born 1984 or between 1984 and 1990 something. Other people say it's all the way to 82 or even including 81, which would make me a millennial. But I look around at the people that call themselves millennial, and I don't feel like I identify as one of them. And the generation that sort of came before me, Generation X, were the people that came of age in the 80s and saw Reaganomics and the fall of communism, really just, the breakdown of the USSR and the breaking of the Berlin Wall and the start of globalization, really, I think is the easiest thing to say. Gen Xers came of age at a time when the world was starting to connect to itself in a way that had only sort of been touched on in the 60s and 70s, but was becoming a bigger thing with advances in technology and communication. I came of age at a time where that connectivity was available to regular people. Anybody with enough money to pay for a monthly subscription to CompuServe or Internet or America Online, or, eventually, I use Comcast now. I can't even remember what we had before. But, so my childhood is marked by Transformers and G.I. Joe, Back to the Future, hair metal, and a lot of other things. But the point which I went from being a little kid to a teenager to an adult is when we saw the World Wide Web appear, when we began to communicate with Europe on a regular basis. We could leave emails for people on forums who were in Britain or Germany or France, and they would respond to us in the morning. Just, and understanding, that there are other places in the world, and having that weird ability to not just instantly communicate with people, but in some ways I think that the ability to send an email or text message that can be responded to at a convenient time instead of a phone call, organizing, waking up at 2 a.m. so you can talk to somebody in Australia when it's, 3 in the afternoon for them. I'm sure that's not the actual way that it works, but that trick, that put something there and then wait for it to be consumed, viewed, absorbed by another person, is in fact what we're doing right here. I'm making this video now, I'm putting it up, and then anybody who wants to, who knows who I am, or is just searching for one of the random keywords, can see this video, including Grandma June. Hi, Grandma. If you have found this, I know I gave instructions in the letter, but you might not see that letter for a few days, and I don't know if you're going to come back and go through all these. I don't even know if you have a computer in your room, but I love you. Anyway, I'm going to give her a much more dramatic happy birthday on June 1st. And hopefully this time the video will have audio, unlike when I wished my dear sister happy birthday on her birthday, and it was a mute video. So I'm Eric Spornitz, and tomorrow will be better.